Hi my loves, welcome back or welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. I am back with another monthly reading wrap up. Today we're going to be talking about the 10 books I read in the month of May. I was pleasantly surprised with that number. I did not think I would be reading that many. May was a very busy month for me, so I really had set my expectations quite low, but I am so happy with how many I read and the quality of books I read. I had a bit of a range this month, so we read 4 fantasies, 3 thrillers, and 3 romances. So as I said, a little bit of a range. I definitely read a lot of thrillers because I was kind of feeling a little bit slumpish, and also just when your brain's so busy, you don't really want to be focusing on a high political fantasy book. You kind of just want something quick that you can just, you know, pick up, read, and just be immersed in and then forget about it afterwards. And so that's why I read a lot of thrillers. So if you're going into a book slump, I have quite a few book slump recommendations in this wrap up because I was trying to like not go in one the entire month. Starting out the month very strong with When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. This is a fantasy romance. It was recently traditionally published and I am absolutely obsessed. Right off the bat, I gave this book a 5 stars. Like, I loved it so much. As I said, this is a fantasy romance. It is forced proximity, very unique love line in this book as well, which I feel like was very refreshing. We have mythical creatures, we have politics, we have adventure. It is just so action-packed and you just don't get bored through the entire thing. Any fan of like Sarah J. Maas, obviously. The Crimson Moth, anything like that, I feel like you'll love this. This is just a little bit more political. It's a little bit more like high fantasy but with a strong line of romance, which is like the perfect fantasy book in my opinion. As I said, absolutely loved this. I feel like if you liked Fourth Wing and you're just wanting to like venture into a little bit more fantasy as well, you'll love this. Also, like, the illustrations in this, they're just so good. Every chapter we have a beautiful illustration, which I just feel like adds so much more to the book. And at the back, we also have an entire like pronunciation guide, we have a character list, we have family trees, and I just find that sort of stuff so helpful when you're trying to like understand and get into a new fantasy book. I just think it's like incredibly helpful because when you're reading and you forget who a character is, like, yeah. So I very much recommend the physical copy for that reason. Absolutely obsessed with this, a 5 stars. Cannot stop thinking about it. Highly recommend to any of my fantasy romance fans. I then read Relia, which is the second book in the Medoran Chronicles by Lynette Noni. I am falling in love with this series. I did a reading vlog in this series. If you want to go watch it, it's up on my channel. And like, you can just watch me absolutely fall in love with it. I read the first book, Akane, at the beginning of the year, and I did like it. It was definitely a very promising start. I gave it like a 4 stars. We are set at a magic school. We have a great sense of found family. All my Harry Potter fans, it's very Harry Potter vibes, but like adding a bit more like Frey magic. But this book really just exceeded my expectations. It was fast paced, it was action packed. This is a YA series, so go in knowing that, like, it's nothing spicy or anything like that. It is very much a YA series, but like this book just really took a turn and I became absolutely obsessed with this world, with the characters. I definitely want to be continuing this series in the next month. It just made me feel like a kid reading again. It made me feel like I did when I read Harry Potter for the first time, and like not a lot of series do that to me. I think maybe Percy Jackson did that to me. It's a rare feeling. It's a very rare feeling, and the fact that this is giving it to me, I'm eating it up. As I said before, great found family. Like, I am obsessed with our characters in this, and the plot twist at the end of this, it was not okay. It was not okay. It made me want to read it, the next one, immediately, and I'm very much having trouble finding the physical copies of this, so do want to get to that. I gave this book a 4.75 stars. It wasn't quite a 5 stars. I just didn't get that 5-star feel, but it was addictive. It was fast-paced, adventurous. There is a little line of romance in there as well, and I just feel like when it's YA romance, I don't know, for some reason I just can't get enough of it. And again, set at a magic school, that's like my everything. Highly recommend this series. I then read my most surprising read of the month, and that was Reckless by Elsie Silver. So Reckless is the 4th book in the Chestnut Springs series, which is a Canadian cowboy romance series. Definitely not my usual series that I would read, but I was absolutely obsessed with this book. The first few books in the series I have really enjoyed. None of them have been 5 stars, but for Flawless, I really enjoyed. It was a great introduction to the series. Obsessed with Heartless. Powerless was also good. Heartless was definitely my favorite before I read Reckless though, and Reckless just took it to another level. I feel like I'm tempted to give this a 5 stars, but I think I'm gonna go 4.75 stars just because once I finished it, I didn't really think about it. But that's like the sole reason. Everything else about it was amazing. The characters were amazing. I love the sense of found family that we're getting, because in a way, these are all kind of like interconnected standalones. They're all following different characters on the ranch that we're set in. They're all following a different love story, and you just get like cameos of all the other characters in each book, and it's just so much fun. I love that vibe. And Reckless was no exception. So in Reckless, we're following Winter, and she is kind of seen as like the I don't give a shit about anything, I don't care what people think of me, that kind of vibe. And so for that reason I was like, do I like you? But this book, Yes, this book made me like her. We are also introduced to Theo. Well, we get to know Theo a little bit better, and he is my favorite cowboy in this series, let's just say that. Absolutely obsessed with Theo. I'm almost finished this series. There is only one more book left, and I'm quite nervous for that book because I've heard very, very mixed reviews on it, but it's just such a fun time. Like, it's a fun series to read, and I really, really like Elsie Silver's works. And speaking of Elsie Silver's works, I also read Wild Love in the month of May. This is Elsie Silver's newest release. It is the first in a 2B series. We technically are set in the same world as the Chestnut Spring series, but we are following different characters in a different town. So this book is following Ford, who is the brother of Willa in Heartless. So we've still got that kind of connection, and we do see Willa a little bit, which I just loved because I love Willa as a character. And we are also following his kind of childhood rival, Rosie. They're like, we're childhood best friends, but always had this kind of like flirty, like argumentative side to their friendship, which is, you know, fun and cute. And I was really, really excited going into this just because of all the hype around this. Like, I really thought I was going to be absolutely obsessed, especially because I loved Reckless so much. But I will say it didn't quite live up to the hype in my experience. I gave it a 3.5 stars just because I wasn't obsessed with the characters. Like, I definitely was intrigued in the storyline, and it was a really great storyline, but it took me a while to get through, and I kind of had no desire to pick it up all the time. Like, when I was reading it, I was enjoying it, but I don't know, I just didn't have that, oh my god, I can't wait until I can go read this afternoon kind of vibe about it. But as I said, I feel like this is really subjective. I feel like if you connect with these characters, like, this would be an absolutely amazing 5-star read. Just because I didn't connect to them, I didn't love it as much. But the storyline was great, the romance was great, the tension, amazing. And we do have a kind of like found family getting formed in here as well. And I'm very excited to see where the series will go. I am definitely going to be continuing this series. This is kind of the same as Flawless for me. Like, I feel like it started at a pretty like, oh, okay tone. And then I feel like we're just going to get better and better. So I gave this a 3.5 stars. I then finally read Two Twisted Crowns by Rachel Gillig. This has been on my TBR for the longest time. I read One Dark Window back in November. Absolutely loved it. Like, I really, really did. It wasn't a 5-star read, but it was really enjoyable. It's a fantasy romance, like really unique magic system. What couldn't you love? And I had heard incredible things about this, which is why I was a little bit intimidated to pick it up. And I didn't want to pick it up at a time that I wasn't going to appreciate it. But personally, I absolutely loved this. Again, prefacing by saying it was a 4.75 read. I did have the best time reading it. It just didn't get those 5-star feels, but it was really good. I kind of wished we got more of one particular character, and I kind of was expecting that, so I think that's what differed my rating a little bit. And this was multiple POVs from a few characters that I didn't expect to be like in their mind. Full of adventure, full of action. There was a few different lines of romance in this, which was really, really nice. I really loved those lines, and I didn't really expect there to be heaps of romance in this. I do think it was better than the first one. I really do, especially just because we've been introduced to the characters. We know who we're following, and for that reason, I just feel like it was really great. This world that we're set in, if you're not sure, is really, really unique. We're basically set in a world where tarot cards hold magical abilities. So if you possess a tarot card, you get the ability it possesses. So for example, if you want like extreme power, you can get that tarot card and you will have extreme power. It is very cool, very unique, and I do highly, highly recommend this duology. I love duologies as well. Like, you can just binge them. They're amazing. I kind of wish I binged this duology. But yeah, I highly recommend this series. A 4.75 stars for me. I'm just going to talk about the 3 thrillers I read in the month of May. That's a bit of a tongue twister, just to get them out of the way, because they were all by Freda McFadden. She's kind of my go-to thriller author at the moment, and I did really enjoy most of them. So first of all, I read The Ex by Freda McFadden. Absolutely loved this one and didn't expect to. This one totally took me by surprise. Plot twists were insane. I highly, highly recommend this book. It was addictive, it was fast-paced, but a little bit forgettable, so I gave it a 4 stars. But just like, she's just so good for whenever you're going into a slump. Like, I just can't stop thinking about her characters once I'm reading. Like, once I'm reading that book, I need to finish it. I need to finish it in like a sitting, and that I feel like is one of the best feelings in a book. Like, just what beats that feeling? So Freda McFadden is amazing for that. I gave this a 4 stars. This was also on my TBR. I then read One by One. This was my most disappointing read by her so far. I gave this a 2.5 stars just because I guessed every single plot twist, and I'm not usually like that for Freda McFadden. Usually she completely takes me by surprise, but for this one I did guess every plot twist. If you like the Blair Witch Project though, I do recommend this book. We are following a group of adults who break down in the middle of the woods on their way to a cabin, and they get lost in the woods and scary shit starts to happen. It's really good, but I just guessed everything and I was kind of left like, oh, okay. Still recommend it though. It was a very, very addictive read. I read it in one sitting. I then read Ward D, and this is most people's like favorite book by her, so I was really excited about this one. Again, guessed a few of the plot twists, which I didn't expect to. So I gave this a 3 stars. We're set in a psychiatric ward though, and that was a very, very interesting setting and honestly creeped me out a lot. Like, I didn't want to walk around at night because I was quite scared. It was just a very interesting premise. We are following a medical student and she has to do a kind of evaluation in a psychiatric ward just so she can like pass that off and tick the box. And it's just like so many secrets start coming out in that 13 hours that she's there. It's bizarre and I cannot imagine working there. Anyone who does, you're an absolute saint. So those were the 3 thrillers I read. I then read Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This is my first ever Abby book, and I am so excited to say that I absolutely loved this. I gave it a 4.75 stars. The only thing that rocked me was the fact that this is an age gap romance, and I did not know about that. I did know it was like a city country kind of romance, as kind of obvious on the picture. I did not know that it was an age gap romance, and I'm not typically a fan of those, but this is one of the best ones I have ever read. I loved her, as you can see, I loved her writing. There were so many like beautiful quotes in here. I loved her characters. I loved how she developed characters, and I am so excited to go on to Yours Truly and Just for the Summer because they are all interconnected standalones. I really am starting to understand the hype around Abby's books because they are beautiful. Like, they're just beautiful romances, and I feel like they really touch on a lot of sensitive topics in a really respectful way and really draw attention, like necessary attention to them, which is really, really refreshing. I absolutely loved our main protagonists in these books, and just them like falling in love with each other and realizing how perfect they are for each other is just wonderful. Loved it. And finally, I reread Harry and the Goblet of Fire. I reread Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire by J.K. Rowling. I'm currently working through my reread of this series because it is one of my all-time favorite series. Absolutely obsessed with it. And of course, it's a 5-star for sentimental reasons. This is definitely my favorite book in the series. I just love the Triwizard Tournament. I love getting introduced to all of our new characters. I'm a Fleur girl. I don't know why. She's not particularly likable, but I love her. And I just feel like there are so many amazing things in this book that are left out in the movies. Like, why is Dobby and Winky left out in the movies? They're such vital parts to the plot. I don't get that. I love Dobby as well. Like, why can't we have more Dobby? If you haven't read the books but have watched the movies of Harry Potter, I highly recommend reading the books. My all-time favorite series for sentimental reasons and just because it is a wonderful series. Do not support anything J.K. Rowling has said. I remove her from her works only because this has such a sentimental value to me. Anyway, love the series, and this was a 5-star read for me. So that was everything I read in the month of May. I'd say it was a pretty successful month, and I'm very excited to go into June. I have a lot more reading vlogs coming up for you guys, so I hope you get excited for them too. And I will see you in my next video.